Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Would you like even more content? Here's my Patreon. Now onto the stories. Case file number 1231, written by NotAwolf, The Mysterious Wolfman. Onto the story. I live in a fairly small area, like a 700-person town and a 30-minute plus drive to the nearest fast food establishment. This is a rather rural location in northern Michigan. This took place in the fall of 2009. I was 18 at the time. While driving home from a fairly late dinner with my father, we noticed what was presumably my neighbor's son standing in the road 3 blocks from our house. It was quite dark out, close to 11 p.m. Our direct next-door neighbors are a bit off. I can't quite explain any one thing that denotes weirdness, but they are just kind of different. The father is 60 plus, and the kids were in their very early teens or even younger. The household rules seem somewhat strict for the children. I am fairly certain a television does not rank among the possessions of their house. They are somewhat evasive if you ever try to speak to any one member of the family, and they quickly depart to avoid any further conversation. Weird, but not excessively unnatural in any way. So, standing in the middle of a dark road, we see what we believe to be one of their boys. The only discernible piece of clothing from the distance we were at was a gray hooded sweatshirt. The individual looked oddly shaped, but at a distance with poor lighting, so who can tell for sure. Since we were only a few blocks away from our house, we were not traveling very fast, and as we slowly approached the person standing in the road, he dropped onto all 4 limbs and waddled into their yard in a somewhat noteworthy manner. Both myself and my father were somewhat stunned by seeing this odd child hanging around in the middle of the night. We kind of brush it off as, my God, what the hell is with these people? And pull into our yard directly in front of our house. After leaving the car and making it into the house, I make directly for my computer and sit down to begin logging into TeamSpeak and my online game of choice for the night. A quick interlude to describe my computer area. It is in the living room, and a rather long one at that. My computer is directly in front of a large picture window pointing towards the road at the back of our house. When I sit at my computer, I would be staring directly out of this window if not for the monitor being in the way. The other large window in our living room is half a house away to my right. While it is in the same room, I did mention this room is long. It is also 90 degrees off my standard focal point. Someone looking in the window can see me directly sitting at my computer due to no large furniture being in the way. This window is about 8 feet off the ground outside. As I am loading up my various programs on my computer, I hear my dad walk into the living room from my left and just stop dead in his tracks. I think nothing of it for about 15 seconds, but when he does not move an inch, I turn to face him and see his face rather pale with a puzzled look. I ask him what's wrong, and he points in a direction that is now directly behind me, the window on the other side of the room. As I turn, I catch a glimpse of something whose presence I feel as if I will never truly be able to forget, while at the same time I cannot exactly detail what I saw. It was a thing that stood somewhere near the middle of the window, so at or above 8 foot tall, with rough and almost dog-like facial features, the likes of which I have never experienced before. This thing is also wearing what looks to be the same gray hooded sweatshirt from before with the hood up over its head. The snout, however, was still protruding from the clothing. Within a split second of me turning around to face it, this thing turned and dropped down onto 4 limbs. It quite literally began to sprint down the street. Within a moment of this thing darting away, I ran myself to the window in order to get another glimpse, but it was incredibly fast. I am by no means an athlete, but I'm not particularly unfit either. The time it takes me to cover the length of my yard on the street while running on foot would be somewhere around 30 seconds. This thing had done it on 4 legs in less than 10. By this point in time, I was scared crapless. Both my heart and my stomach felt as if they were lying on the floor in front of me. My father, on the other hand, was quite intrigued after the initial shock had passed. By the time it had run out of sight, his jacket was back on, and he was running out to the car with a flashlight and camera to go see if he could get another look. I myself was somewhat paralyzed. After my shock, I quickly ran to close every curtain, lock every door, and turn on every single light in the house. Being alone was not helping much. Despite being an 18-year-old male, I felt as if I was a 5-year-old girl who had just seen the boogeyman. In the subsequent minutes, I managed to get back onto TeamSpeak and relay some of the recent events to some longtime friends. Friends who, to this day, will recount the absolute fear that was my voice after hearing the tale. That, however, is not the end. Within about 30 minutes, my dad had returned in an almost disappointed fashion that he was not able to catch whatever it was that had been staying in our window just a short time before. I was almost angry with him that he would even want that thing to return. By that point, it was just complete fear speaking though. I was visibly shaken and quite confused. Later that night, I received a rather unsettling phone call from my mother. She lived in a different town and was in no way aware of the events that had just occurred yet. She called up in a rather scared manner, saying that she had just seen a local breaking news story while lying in bed. Apparently, there were 2 sightings of what was reported as the Wolfman near my town that evening. This was just about all I needed to confirm the fact that something very unnatural had really taken place that evening. I have to say I didn't sleep too well that night, or the next one. No follow-up stories were ever done by the news, and I have never seen nor heard of any other sightings since that time. I am generally a pretty skeptical person when it comes to supernatural things, but I literally lack any possible explanation for what my father and I saw. Case notes for file 1231. The mysterious Wolfman. The fact that enough people witnessed it to create a local news story is really remarkable, especially given the town you lived in was small. But then again, I do notice that small town folk usually pay more attention to their surroundings and property than those urban city dwellers. Lycanthrope, man-wolf, werewolf. Lots of names for what we describe as men who shapeshift into beasts of the night. You mentioned it being late at night, but not if the moon was out. Presuming it was, this is one of the more direct accounts of lycanthropy. Keep in mind that werewolf lore is Old English. It goes back deep in time, even into the medieval era. The curse of lycanthropy was also considered by some scholars as being a divine punishment. Werewolf literature shows many examples of God or saints allegedly cursing those who invoke their wrath with lycanthropy, such as the case with a Lycaon, who was turned into a wolf by Zeus as punishment for slaughtering one of his own sons and serving his remains to the gods as dinner. Freaking crazy. Zeus was not a friendly person, let's just get that right, friendly deity. Those who were excommunicated by the Roman Catholic Church were also said to become werewolves. It's like the divine spark was robbed of them, and then they become werewolves. Not man, not beast, somewhere in between. And now time for the facts of the day. The sun is large enough that approximately 1.3 million Earths could fit inside, if squashed in. Or if the Earths retain their spherical shape, then 960,000 would fit. But can you visualize that number of Earths? Go outside and walk, say, 1 mile. Just continuously walk 1 mile. And then realize that the circumference of the Earth at the equator is almost 25,000 miles. So walk 1 mile, then imagine doing that 25,000 times. That's to circumnavigate the planet. And then imagine 1.3 million of those Earths all surrounding you. And to truly imagine that, you have to scale up slowly. Imagine 1 Earth, one we're on, then imagine 10, then 100, then 1,000, then 10,000, 100,000, million. You have to slowly scale it up in your mind. Start adding those little blue marbles one at a time. Only then do you truly appreciate how unimaginable the size of the sun is. We can't even truly grasp. Second fact, there's a planet made of diamonds twice the size of Earth, the Super Earth, aka 55 Cancri E, is most likely covered in graphite and diamond. So if you were to go there, presumably would pay for the fuel costs to get there and back. Of course, it would take quite a while, so probably not going to happen anytime soon. Still, it just goes to show you that what we perceive as valuable really is mostly down to practicality and use. Diamonds have a lot of uses, but also scarcity and rarity, which is also why diamonds on Earth not really that rare. We can make them now synthetically, and they're even better than the ones we find just in the Earth. Diamonds aren't really, they're useful, but not really that valuable. Gold, on the other hand, is, because we can't make gold. Gold isn't just made in a star, by normal fusion. To get to gold beyond iron, which you can't normally fuse beyond iron in a star, you need a supernova. That explosive event is what creates gold. That's all the gold we have is from dying stars exploding in ultra-violent events. That's why I like gold a lot. It's pretty spectacular. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony signing off.